Thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2. It's a great day to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Let's jump right in. So Kenny Pickett, the softest man ever to play in the NFL, he gets traded once again. And I have a question for Pittsburgh Steelers fans who defend Kenny Pickett. I have a question for Terry Bradshaw, who continuously makes excuses for Kenny Pickett and blames Coach Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization for Kenny Pickett failing in Pittsburgh. I have a question. Did the Philadelphia Eagles fail Kenny Pickett? Did the Cleveland Browns fail Kenny Pickett? And now that he's a Las Vegas Raider, when it fails there, will the Raiders have failed Kenny Pickett also? And let's go back in time. What did Coach Tomlin ask Kenny Pickett to do that caused Kenny Pickett to act like a little child that didn't get his way? Coach Tomlin asked him just one little favor. Hey, Kenny, we're going to bring in some competition for your job, and we want you to compete for your job to see if you deserve to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And instead of saying, okay, no problem, coach, you got it. I'm going to show you I'm that guy. I'm going to show you that I am the best decision that this organization has ever made. Something like Tom Brady would say. You know what Kenny Pickett said? I want to be traded. But I wouldn't expect anything else from Kenny Pickett. This is the same guy that would miss multiple games in a row, not because of a break, not because of a sprain, not because he was even hit hard, because he had a bone bruise. A bruise. That's why Kenny Pickett was missing games. So not only was Kenny Pickett fragile physically, he was fragile and mentally. And let's focus on one thing here. Let's just say hypothetically that Kenny Pickett took the right attitude and said, you know what? I'm going to compete for my job. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get better. Where would his career might be right now to this day? If Kenny Pickett had the right attitude, where would he be? I don't think he would have been traded 2 to 3 other teams later like he is now, a career backup, because that shows you something. That shows you who Kenny Pickett really is, the player and the kind of person he is. And remember, Kenny Pickett wanted to be traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, there's a guy named Jalen Hurts that's their quarterback, where Kenny Pickett would never have an opportunity ever to be the starter or play football. He wanted to be traded there. You know what that sounds like to me, Terry Bradshaw? That sounds like to me a guy that is super content on being a backup and just collecting a check. But hey, let's blame Coach Tomlin, right? Oh yeah, Coach Tomlin failed. The Pittsburgh Steelers organization failed. No, Kenny Pickett's fragile mind failed himself. That's who failed Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett failed him. You'll say, what are you talking about? The guy's an NFL quarterback. He's not a failure. Please don't mix apples and oranges. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say Kenny Pickett's a failure in life. That's not what I'm saying. But as a starting NFL quarterback, a first-round draft pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Kenny Pickett has been a failure in the NFL. Kenny Pickett was supposed to be a franchise quarterback, correct? That's why teams draft a quarterback in the first round, to be a franchise guy, not to be a backup. So this is where I'm going with the conversation. Kenny Pickett has nobody to blame for his career path other than Kenny. And I like Terry Bradshaw. I feel a lot of times that Terry Bradshaw doesn't get respect and credit that he deserves for winning the Super Bowls that he did. But when Terry Bradshaw constantly says things like this and blames Coach Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization for Kenny Pickett's downfalls, you just got to look at him with a side eye and be like, what the hell are you talking about? Rappaport, Kenny Pickett traded to the Raiders. Quarterback trade, the Raiders are trading for Browns quarterback Kenny Pickett. Sources tell insiders, filling a key void before the season. It's a 2026 fifth rounder going back with Aiden O'Connell injury. Pickett, with plenty of experience, becomes a backup to Geno Smith. You know, let me ask you something. Let me ask you a question. If Aiden O'Connell doesn't get injured and Kenny Pickett gets cut by the Browns, he might be out of the National Football League. The only reason why Kenny Pickett's getting opportunity is because the backup quarterback on the Raiders is hurt. What if he doesn't get hurt? Where's Kenny? He might be selling car insurance. That's where he probably would be. Injured with a hamstring pull for much of the summer, Pickett wasn't going to have a role with the Browns and never attempted a pass in preseason action. Wow. In today's NFL, quarterbacks rarely ever get hit, so he had a hamstring injury. I mean, Kenny, are you even training in the offseason? Because you didn't even get hit once and you had a hamstring pull. What the hell are you doing? Joe Flacco was declared the team's Week 1 starter, while Dylan Gabriel impressed and likely will begin the season as the backup, with fellow rookie Shedeur Sanders serving as the number 3. Kenny Pickett couldn't even beat out Shedeur Sanders. And I predicted that from the beginning of the year when he got drafted, Shedeur. I said, you know what? He might not be the starter. He might not beat out Dylan Gabriel, but I know one thing. He'll definitely beat out Kenny Pickett. I've been saying that since the draft. After O'Connell fractured his wrist in the preseason finale, the Raiders made it known they would be in the veteran quarterback market. We speculated whether the Raiders would have interest in the Steelers' Skylar Thompson after his strong preseason. Instead, Pete Carroll and company land Pickett. Oh, yeah, Pete. Lucky you. Pittsburgh's first-round pick in 2022. With 25 NFL starts, Pickett brings more experience. Kenny Pickett was a first-round draft pick in 2022, 3 years ago. And if Aiden O'Connell doesn't get hurt, Kenny Pickett is out of the National Football League. But hey, Terry Bradshaw, let's blame Coach Tomlin. Tom Pelissero tweets on X, the only player in the last 30 years to be traded 3 times within his first 4 NFL seasons was Sam Howell, who hit the market yesterday, and Kenny Pickett is now the second. Wow. Kenny Pickett is making NFL history. I'm sure he is. And you know what? There's still so many Kenny Pickett supporters in Pittsburgh. I just laugh every time I hear you talk, blaming everybody for Kenny Pickett not doing well. Again, Kenny Pickett was asked to compete for his job. As a Pittsburgh Steeler, you're supposed to be known for your grit, your toughness, your physicality. You're willing to compete. And Kenny Pickett was the total opposite of all those things. I think the smartest decision that Coach Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization ever made was saying, you know what? We made a mistake. It's time to say goodbye to Kenny Pickett. Goodbye. You're on your way to Philadelphia. I am so glad that Kenny Pickett does not wear the black and gold anymore. And you'll say, oh, it sounds like a personal issue. No, it's not a personal issue. I just can't stand that type of mentality from an adult who's playing the manliest of all men's games. Oh, I have to compete for my job. I'm going to take my ball and leave. And that's exactly what Kenny Pickett did. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2.